This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by Owner's Locker, and with today's prices for airlines in them charging you like, what is it, $10 a bag, $15 a bag for your first bag, never mind the other airlines which charge you gobs and gobs of money to bring your stuff down, wouldn't it be great for you just to have all your stuff in Orlando, so that way you only have to bring one bag and you can stick it to the man and not have to pay the airline that money, but rather you have all your stuff waiting down there for you. Owner's Locker provides you that kind of a service where all your stuff that you need on your Walt Disney World trip can be waiting for you in Orlando and delivered to your resort upon your next trip. It's a great service, and why not give it a try? Visit them at www.ownerslocker.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It is Monday, June 2nd, 2008, and this is episode 417 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. On the show today is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Hi, Mike.
What's happening?
Everything is everything. And also joining us is Mike Scopa of AllEars.net. Welcome, Mike.
Our planet has drifted through the universe of time.
Spaceship Earth.
That's right.
Yeah. I thought that was too obvious. I thought he was going to go with like something like completely off the wall. I don't know what. Maybe
Muppets, yeah.
Splashtacular or something. I don't know.
Ooh,
Oh,
one of these days.
Splashtacular. Enough about Splashtacular.
Now, I have to find something from Splashtacular.
Let me tell you something. You could say the word Splashtacular and then I wouldn't get it because I've never heard it or seen it or anything. I just think it's a funny name for an attraction.
I must send it to you.
Okay. Well, there you go. On today's show, we're talking about the Disney MGM Studios in 1995. A little while ago, we actually did an episode about Epcot in 1990. I think it was 1995 also. There'll be a link in the show notes to it, so that way if you haven't listened to that one, we have some newer listeners that are joining us, and you can listen to that episode. I mean, they're not related to each other, but certainly the same kind of theme over here. But today we're talking about the Disney MGM Studios back in 1995, and the sort of memories that we have from that time in that park, as well as some of the attractions that were over there. Because some of them aren't here anymore, a lot of them, in fact. A lot has changed since 1995 in the studios. Guys, what's one memory from the studios in 95 that really sticks out in your mind?
95. Well, one of the things that I always loved about Disney MGM Studios is I always had Sorcery in the Sky as my number one nighttime spectacular.
Yes.
Because, Matt, I always thought that Sorcery in the Skies was the predecessor for Wishes. I always thought that it was Sorcery in the Skies that was the very first time that there was a real effort being placed to coordinate pyro with music and put it all together in a nighttime fireworks display. So I always looked forward. I think that back then when I used to go down with my family, we would try to see Sorcery as much as possible over Illuminations and over Fantasy in the Sky.
Yeah,
that was always number one.
Yeah, it was a great show. I really loved Sorcery in the Sky, Mike. It did complement Fantasy in the Sky quite a bit also. I remember they brought Sorcery in the Sky over in coordination with Fantasia's 50th anniversary, and it was a great show. I mean, it ran there for a long time, up until really Fantasmic came in, and that's considering how long both shows, both Sorcery in the Sky and now Fantasmic have been around. I mean, that's kind of it's really only that and Illuminations have stuck around. In Magic Kingdom, they change out their fireworks shows, every 18 months or whatever it turns out to be. But I really like that show. Of course, the big Mickey that would come up behind the Great Movie Ride, and that was really cool.
I have a story. I have a story behind that Mickey. When they first had that show up, Mickey's finger. If you call him at the end of the fireworks, Mickey's finger spouts. It spouts like some kind of fireworks or whatever.
Yep.
Well, when they were playing around with that, the first year that they had Sorcery in the Sky going, Mickey's finger was pointing like towards the crowd, and the people who were in charge of the fireworks thought that it was giving a bad signal, like Mickey was pointing at everybody and saying, "All right, the show's over, go home." so what they did is they took that huge Mickey's Sorcerer's balloon, whatever, and they turned it to the side, so he's pointing towards I believe he points towards the left now.
Yeah.
And Is that right? Toward the left,
Right.
And that's when it goes. And apparently that wasn't an automated thing. They had a cast member up there on the roof of the Great Movie Ride, and he had to pull some kind of a string, or he had to ignite that finger to get it going. And that was something one of the cast members over there at MGM at that time, called MGM Studios, told me about that attraction, about that spectacular. I thought that was kind of funny.
One of the attractions that I really remember, and I think you guys all really liked as well, was Superstar Television over in the ABC Theater. That had been there since the park opened, and it was still going strong in '95. It hadn't been replaced yet. It was going to be, I believe it was replaced in '99, '98 with Doug Live. But that was, I mean, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. I think it was something that a lot of people generally liked. And did you guys ever volunteer for it? I never had. At that age, I was definitely not going to volunteer for it. I was a big baby. What did you guys think? Did you guys ever volunteer for it?
I never volunteered for it, but Carol was selected to participate in the soap opera. Yeah, and at that time I had my big VHS video camera with me, and of course you couldn't videotape because of all the copyright laws or whatever. So when Carol was selected, I said to my son and daughter, I said, "Okay, follow me because we're going to go into the theater, and I want to sit in a special place." And they, They bow to my orders, so they did whatever I told them to.
Bow to your orders.
So what we did is
You put your foot down, right, Mike?
Yeah, I put my foot down. Yeah, and so we went in the theater and we sat on the front row. And if you remember, the Superstar Television Theater had
TVs.
They had monitors all over the place,
Right.
right, Mike? So what I did is, whenever I went to Disney World, I put black electrical tape over the little red light that said I was recording. So
You were
I
such a
crossed-
badass back then,
Oh,
Scopa.
yeah, it was a.
Did you roll up your cigarettes in your sleeve and drive to the studios on your Harley?
Yeah, I dressed like Fonzie.
That's
And
right.
so there I had my legs crossed. I had my video camera focused on the monitor, and I didn't have the little LED screen back then. We just had the little eye thing, and I just had the thing rolling, and I got the whole thing on tape. And so Carol was up there on stage, and she had a real good time. It was a very fast-moving attraction, and I know that the cast members really enjoyed it because it was so fast-paced, and that they got a chance to interact with the guests, and it was a lot of fun for a lot of people. Every show was different, and it was just a shame that it went away.
Yeah, no, exactly. Everything, it was always a different show, and that's always the mark of a good attraction, certainly, that you can have. It's not as repetitive, and it really is a shame that one's gone. Of all the attractions that are gone, I mean, as much as I like Sorcery in the Sky, Fantasmic's nice, I like it. Really, I really do miss Superstar Television. I really think it was a great attraction. Then, yeah, I mean, I understand it was pretty much they got rid of it mostly because a lot of the shows started getting old. I mean, Johnny Carson was one of the things they had on there, and certainly you can't have that. I mean, they even had what's their name from the sitcom? The redhead.
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy. Thank you. I mean, that's just that was old in 1989. Never mind, when they closed it down later. But I wish they would bring that back. That's my Horizons, Newell.
Really?
Yeah. Well, without the little video screens.
Okay.
Also in 95, now this is actually interesting. Back in 95, there was no Rock and Roller Coaster, there was no Fantasmic, and the new kid on the block, so to speak, was Tower of Terror. And again, me being a huge baby, I didn't ride it for a number of years later.
Wow.
But you have a story. You've shared it before on the show, but I know there was a lot of new listeners. I think the last time you shared it, Mike, was a long time ago. But why don't you tell our listeners about the unique opportunity you had to ride it right around when the attraction opened?
Yeah, this was back in '94 when it opened. I had purposely scheduled a 2-week trip down there when I expected the attraction to open, and it was really funny because I dragged the family to MGM every day because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Every day I was there, I was asking, is the Tower of Terror going to open? Is the Tower of Terror going to open? And we never really knew. One cast member would say to me, well, we're hoping to get some soft openings and we'll see what happens. So what would happen is that we would be in MGM and we'd walk by Sunset Boulevard, and I'd go down there and I'd be looking and stuff, and I'd be going all the way to where the tower was, and there was always a cast member in those generic, I forget what kind of color, teal colored generic MGM Studios cast member outfit uniform, and I'd ask,
Right.
any idea when there's going to be a soft opening? And, well, we don't know, blah 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 blah. So it was one day, and it was actually, I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was Thursday, July 21st. We were there in MGM Studios, and we're walking by. I think, I'm not sure if it was Mike and I. We were walking by Sunset Boulevard, and I noticed a little sign on right at the front of Sunset Boulevard, and it said something like Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is going through final dress rehearsal. And to me, that meant that, something's going on down there. So I think I had Mike with me at the time. I think he was 10. So we ran back to
Oh, Newell, you were
Holly.
that young?
I was.
Yeah, Mike Jr. So I ran back to Holly and Carol, and I strongly suggested to them that we stroll down to the tower to see what was going on. When we got to the tower, we noticed that at the base of the tower, there was a cast member in a bellhop uniform. That was the very, very first time I had seen a cast member in something other than the generic studios outfit. So I started, doing the 21 questions. What's going on? Blah blah blah. And they said, "Well, come on in. We're having some dress rehearsals and soft previews." So I said to Carol, "You want to come?" No, thank you. So I got Holly and Mike in there, and we went in there, and everything was brand spanking new. The lobby, of course, the everything was just so brand spanking new. We got into the elevator, and we went up, and at that time, since it was only, just beginning, there was only one drop.
That's
There
right.
wasn't, it was phase 1. We're in phase 4 now, I guess, Matt. Is that what
Yes.
they're calling it?
Yes.
So,
The good old
Tower.
days.
yeah, the good old days. So that was it. It was like you went up, the elevator came out, and, it said, okay, now it's time for you to face, your fears or whatever. And you dropped, and that was it. Now, here's the funny thing. The funny thing is that when the doors opened to the elevator, all we saw were paramedics. We saw about 8 or 9 paramedics. Some of them had medical kits with them. Some of them had stretchers with them, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. So we get off, and of course, Mike the geek, I go over and I start asking questions. Well, what are you guys doing here? Blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, we had no idea how everyone would react, how our guests would react to this attraction. This is the first time we've ever had an attraction like this, so intense in a Disney theme park. I mean, yeah, you get Space Mountain, but it's a roller coaster and things like that. So they weren't sure how people were going to react. So that day, they were really worried about people becoming sick or really passing out.
I can just picture Scopa standing over there with his derby hat with the word press, sticking out of the top of it. And say, fella, what you got over here? What you got, with his camera with the old timey flash bulb that he would throw down on the ground and smash because, something like out of King Kong, the original one,
I'll tell you though, I'll tell you how they were still putting the finishing touches, because as we're walking out of the elevator, the area where you would pick up your photograph of the elevator that they take.
Right.
The only thing that was done in that area was the words on the wall, picture if you will, or something like that.
Yes.
The counter wasn't there, the register wasn't there. It was so you couldn't even buy a photo that day if they were going to have it. I don't even know if they had one going that day, but it was really early in the process, and it was funny because now that I think of it, I mean, you go on the attraction today, and
I know it's so different.
Way different than what it was back then.
Yeah, right. I mean, back then it was just just the one drop profile, and they didn't even add the double drop until 1996. So really, I mean, you went and you waited a long time on that attraction. When it first opened, and everyone was piling on there, and you would go on there and it'd be one drop. That was it.
Yeah.
It's really funny to think about. Going back to some of the other attractions, what was going on over there? I remember this parade. The Aladdin parade. They had Aladdin's Royal Caravan was the daytime parade over. And the reason why I remember this one vividly is there's a little bit of trivia for you. If you guys remember in the parade there were those the camels, like golden camels that were in the parade.
Yeah, they spit.
The spitting. Those are the same camels that you see now over in Adventureland in the Magic Kingdom.
Yep.
So there's your little Mangello-esque moment where you can get a little trivia out of there. But I remember that. I mean, that was the thing they started doing, was they would have the parades that would feature Disney's recent film, and they did Aladdin. After that they had Toy Story, Hercules, Mulan. But that parade I remember for some reason more than anything, probably because it was there for quite a while, as I remember, a couple of years, 2-3 years now.
That was just before they went to Stars and Motorcars parade, right?
No, that was actually the Stars and Motorcars didn't come until 2001. That was a year of
that
was a year of a million dreams. Yeah, I know. Not a year of a million dreams. Excuse me.
Wow.
100 years of whatever. The 100 year celebration. That's the one.
That's right.
They did quite a number of parades though in the 90s. I mean, they just went like one after another. It was just crazy.
Yeah, they had a lot of celebrities too. They had I forget what's her name. I saw a couple of celebrity parades down there. They would have some of the celebrities that were on the Disney Channel or some from Disney films, and they would have them come up and down Hollywood Boulevard in a motor car.
Did either of you guys ever get a chance to eat at the Soundstage restaurant, which was still open in '95?
Which is now the
Playhouse Disney.
Yes, I did that when they used to have what they had, Matt. Do you remember as you walked in, if you went up the stairs to the right, there was a display like out of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, they
had the rose. They had the rose undercover in the glass.
Yeah, they had Beauty and the Beast. I think they also added later on Aladdin. Also, they had some stuff over there from
yes, and they had the Catwalk Bar on top.
Yeah, both those places were Catwalk Bar and Soundstage Restaurant. What did you think? Do you remember the food at all over there, Mike?
It was your basic fast food restaurant, Disney fast food restaurant, selection. It wasn't anything to write home about. Certainly not the way it is today with some of the quick service,
right.
Fast food, quick service, whatever. It wasn't that great. The only reason why I liked eating there was I liked the atmosphere in there. It was pretty cool.
Huh. One of the attractions that I know, Mike Newell, you're gonna drool with me over, was the old Magic of Disney Animation attraction where you had the old film with Walter Cronkite and Robin Williams, and there was that film alone, and then the other film they showed after that film. Remember the one where they showed all the poignant Disney moments? And let me tell you something, that would bring a lot of guys to tears. You know what I mean? They had like, I just remember they would do like right after another, they'd have like Bambi's mother shot, then they would have Mufasa dying, and then they would have something equally sad.
They had Old Yeller. They had Old Yeller.
I mean, it was like, you heartless animals, how could you put that like right after that? Because it was so emotional. But it also showed you, I think it did the job. But you remember that attraction quite well, right, Mike?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
they also.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
I didn't know which Mike you.
No, I meant Newell, but sure, why not?
No, I mean that's also back in the day when they actually had animators.
Yeah, I mean, never mind that. I mean, I completely skipped over the whole animators, but you're absolutely right, Mike.
That was in itself was the after the film part, you'd walk around into different, you had ink and paint, you had different sections, and that alone was really cool to see.
Phone call. It was very cool. I remember you go in there and it was like Fort Knox in there. No pictures, no video, no nothing. Because they were actually doing real production in there, and industrial sabotage or industrial spying was always a thing. It always reminded me of that scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where they were like, remember what was that guy's name who was always trying to get the recipes?
Willy Wonka?
The other guy, the other tall, weird guy who ended up actually working for Wonka. Anyway. Anyway, it was always that it had that sense of coolness because they actually were producing real stuff in there. And so it always had that it was very cool. To put it up.
I did tape that Robin Williams film. I do have that on videotape, but I wish I had taped the other film with Mickey Mouse with the Michael Eisner watch. And they had Michael Eisner, and I think they had an animated Michael Eisner, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. And I can remember one scene in that particular film where all the cartoons or all the animated characters were doing something, and Chernabog from Night on Bald Mountain and from Fantasia was there, and he was yelling something to everyone, and Eisner gave him a look, and there's Chernabog, he's like towering over Eisner, and he looks at him and he says, "Sorry, Mr. Eisner." And I wish I had taped that, but I really
there's some
missed
great
that
moments.
attraction.
I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a clip from the Walter Cronkite film that's really funny. They just had so many good lines in that film over there, where Robin is really just I think he did a great job over there. Hi everyone, I'm a corporate icon, and
Yeah.
and I could even be you, Walter Cronkite.
First Blood.
First Blood. Yeah, that's right. Peter Pan, First Blood.
First Blood.
That was a great one.
Really quick, you're missing Monster Sound Show.
Oh yeah,
That's the
That's
sound
right.
stage, yeah.
yeah. That was the
I
one
was
with
on
Chevy
that.
Chase and
Martin Short.
Martin Short. Yeah, the
Martin
guys
Short.
you thought was Rick Moranis. God.
Yeah, pre-Botox.
Actually, there were two different shows. They had the one with Chevy Chase, and then there was another one just before they closed with, I think they had dogs on it or something, like Dalmatians or something. I remember I was in both of
remember
them. I was lucky
I don't
enough
remember
to
that.
be selected for both of them, and I thought that was another one of those attractions at the theme park where it was a different experience for the guests every time they went.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I think is missing these days. I think that anytime they put together an attraction that offers you a different experience every time you go on it, like Toy Story Mania, I think that's a plus. I really do.
Absolutely. Cool.
Oh, I got one last one too before we quickly go. Something I missed terribly in the back was Residential Street.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Backlot tour. I mean, we could talk about the whole Backlot tour. That's a whole. That's a
Yeah,
whole itself.
One of my favorite parts was driving down Residential Street and seeing all the houses of from television shows that I remember watching in reruns. Like the Golden Girls and Empty Nest and.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I remember in '95. I remember, wow, this is really cool. And then I came back every year, and it was the same houses. And by like 2000 something, I was like, wow, this really was cool. Like in '95, but now it's like, I mean, Ernest Saves Christmas. I mean, that house when they would be like, and here's the Ernest Saves Christmas house. Oh, great.
Plus the part of that tour that remember we saw how they would take one of the kids and they would put them on that bee, and they would show how they made
yes,
that
yes,
part
yes.
of the Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and then there was the thing with Bette Midler and the lottery ticket. There was a lot more to that.
I remember that.
That was a pretty neat attraction, and it's a shame that they brought in that stunt show. I won't go any further, but I'm not a big fan of the stunt show because I think
me either.
I'll put a link also. I wrote an article about the history about how the old one, and it was literally 2 hours long. But it was very cool. I do admit that.
Yep.
Well, that's it for us today. Don't forget that this episode of Walt Disney World Today has been sponsored by Owner's Locker. And with the ever-increasing prices, with trying to bring extra luggage down, it really makes a lot more sense now to leave your stuff in Orlando using Owner's Locker. And that way you don't have to keep on bringing that stuff back and forth and paying for those extra bags, but rather you keep it down there in Orlando, and they'll deliver to your resort right when you get there, and they'll pick it up when you're on your way back already. So that way, less stuff to haul around with you in the airport. Now it's just you and the kids instead of you, the kids, and all that junk. So why not give them a try? Go to ownerslocker.com. And if you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.